This week, we're going to be talking about Beyonce's brand new album, Cowboy Carter. So, Cowboy Carter, also referred to as Act 2 Cowboy Carter, is the 8th studio album by American singer and songwriter Beyonce. It was released on March 29th, 2024. It is the second installment of Beyonce's trilogy project. On this album, Beyonce tries to spotlight the overlooked contributions of Black pioneers to American musical and cultural history. A few things to note on this discussion. The vinyl pressing of this album is missing Spaghetti, Flamenco, The Linda Martelli Show, Ya Ya, and Oh Louisiana. The CD pressing is missing Spaghetti, The Linda Martelli Show, Ya Ya, and Oh Louisiana. And the CD pressings, Riverdance, Two Hands to Heaven, and Tyrant are actually longer than the digital edition. For the discussion today, we are going to be talking about the digitally available version of the album that's available today, because who knows, that might change in the future. But if you're listening to the CD or the vinyl and you're like, you got all the songs wrong in the wrong order, we're talking specifically about the digital edition today. So, Eric, your thoughts on Cowboy Carter as our resident. Actually, my first question to you for all that, because the big discussion about this is Beyonce's stepping into country music, or at least in the media, it's being portrayed as a country album by Beyonce. But Beyonce herself has stated that it is not a country album, it is a Beyonce album, which I feel like is a bit of a sidestep to the question. But I want to get your thoughts as our country resident expert. Is this album country, or partially country, or a little bit country, or not country at all? And then your overall thoughts on the album.
Okay. This is going to be a tall glass to handle here. Maybe that's why I chose the beer with the highest percentage, just because I'm going to need it for this one. So I think I was very happy, first of all, to see that Beyonce said that this isn't a country album, this is a Beyonce album. Because these idiots who think that they are putting this album into the country world, there's no way that this is a country album. I'm sorry. There's no way that this is a country album, and I would be willing to defend this. When I heard the first single, Texas Hold'em, I was like, this could potentially be a country album. It's not, and I said it from the beginning when we heard that single, that I feel like she's going to have her R&B feel to the album. Regardless, you can't help that. It's not like she's just going to start playing like Dolly Parton or Willie Nelson. There's no chance in hell that's ever going to happen, because it's what she knows and it's what she can add to the genre. But I was thoroughly surprised when I listened to this from front to back of how I'm like, there's not much country in here. There's very little. Even in the terms of covering the song Jolene by Dolly Parton, that doesn't make you country. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
You can't, it's almost as, and I disagree with this too, when Nickelback, their song on their newest album got put into the Country Music Awards. I disagree with that as well, because it's like they're a rock band, right? Okay. And it's just like they shouldn't. They're like, oh yeah, this album's like half country. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's a rock album, right? It's just that they have a country song on the album, right? And just having elements of country in your album doesn't make you country. Now, if you I feel like there has to be some sort of checklist of things that you need to come across in order for it to be considered a country album. So the other point I have to this, even if you're covering songs like Jolene or Blackbird, which isn't even a country song, it's a Beatles song. Even having Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton, who don't really have much of a part in this album, they're just mentioned in the song titles. There's spoken word for literally 10 seconds. That doesn't make this country. This doesn't make it a country album either.
Right.
right? I do agree that this is a Beyonce album, right? And it's something that I'm not a fan of
Mm.
and partake. But it was very apparent that like American Requiem, right? Opening song on the track, very vocal heavy, very like almost like gospel sounding, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And it was like this is a cool like tune, like it's got some cool hooks to it. But then even when the guitar came in, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, did they just get somebody that's never played guitar before? And they're like, these are the chords that you're gonna play. And I want you to just it was literally like all it was like da na na na, and it was just all down like you could tell it's all downstroked.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is what is going on here? Because Beyonce's a talented musician, right?
Yep.
And I feel like does she not know anybody that can play the guitar? Right? Like she's got to know somebody that can strum these chords. And I don't know whether that was intentional to sound like that. But it sounded awful to me. Like it just sounded awful because I'm like, I felt like if you got rid and I felt like they just got this out of tune acoustic guitar, gave it to somebody that has no idea what he's doing, and was like, "I need you to play these chords." And then they're like, "Okay, is it in tune?" And they're like, "I don't know, just hit record." And then they recorded that part, which I was very upset about. And then it goes into Blackbird, and I'm like, "Okay." You're already having a cover, which I feel like with albums, I feel like covers should be more to the bottom of the album if you're
I
going to
yeah.
put
I
covers in.
completely agree with you on Blackbird. And just to give a bit of context here, like Blackbird isn't just Beyonce like singing the song. She has Brittany Spencer, Raina Roberts, Tanner Adele, and Tiara Kennedy, who are essentially like the up and coming female black country artists today. So it's
Mhm.
essentially I don't know why Blackbird is the one that is being chosen here, but it's essentially like the place in the album where she's like these are the black female artists that you should pay attention in the country genre, right? If the agenda for this album is to sort of open up the racial boundaries of the genre, and spotlight the current
Mhm.
generation of struggling artists that are trying to break it into the sort of the industry, like that's what this song is for. But I completely agree with you that Blackbird as track 2 as a cover
Mhm.
is quite possibly the worst place to put that song in an
Yeah.
album. It should honestly be the last track, bonus track, second last track. It should be like at the end, especially
Yeah.
if it's a song intended to be sort of like a I'm passing the torch to the next generation type of song. Like it should be at the end of the album. It
Mhm.
always has to be at the end of the album. I don't know why it's on track 2.
Yeah, it was a dumb like thought process of it was like picking the guy that can't play guitar, like to put that
Also, I
in.
don't know
And
why
then
Blackbird by the Beatles. I have no idea why.
yeah, I don't know what the significance is. I don't know whether they think that is a country song, but it's not.
Yeah.
Um, I like even 16 Carriages, which is the second single that came out.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of this when it came out. I was like, okay, this is a typical Beyonce song. Sure, it's a bit country sounding kind of, but um when it, like I felt like the album kind of like it tricked me a little because then it goes into Protector, which is an okay song.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually didn't mind that. I was like, this is actually pretty good, and I would consider it a country sounding song, especially even the story behind it
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yep.
It has the elements of country music. Like it's telling a story that's easy to follow, right? It's coming from her perspective, which is very unique, right? And that's hasn't really been done in country music, right?
Yep.
And then My Rose, it's like okay, it's okay. And then the Smoke Hour with Willie Nelson, which was I found was a cool little transition. However, I felt like that could have been the opener of the album. Like you could have had that as an
Yeah.
opener and then gone into the album.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's
um,
like a radio show, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
the whole like Grand Old Opry kind of thing, like that's like the history of country music right there, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that would be really cool. Then you have the main single, Texas Hold'em, which is like, okay, it's a good song. Like,
I hate
but
Texas Hold'em. I
I've
hate
heard it too many times now, so it's like whatever.
I hate it. It is that song that it's everything I hate about country music, where you just start spewing out lyrics that are so cliche. When she starts singing about spurs and boots, I'm just like, why did you bring out like the worst of country in here? Like, I get it, you're trying to like sort of bring in the country element, but that is the worst element of country music in my opinion, when you just talk about pickup trucks and like dirt roads and like drinking a beer. Like, this is the worst part of it. I hate it.
Hey, it's country music,
I
man. You
freaking hate
gotta.
it. I hate it. All right, continue.
Anyway, I actually did. I don't mind that single. I have heard it too many times. It's been overplayed on the radio
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But then it goes into probably my favorite song on this album is Bodyguard.
Oh, okay.
I thought this album was awesome, and then it just goes downhill. Then it literally just takes a dive bomb for me.
Okay.
After this, then it goes into the Dolly Parton part, which is like Jolene, which I think should be at the bottom of
I think
the album
Jolene
as
shouldn't
well.
even be on this album. My opinion of
Yeah,
this, Jolene was an unnecessary, because like Jolene is a song about a scorned woman, um, but I just don't. Here's the thing with country music, right? What makes country music great is the storytelling, right?
Mhm.
The storytelling is the main draw of country music, in my opinion. But with a song like Jolene, where Beyonce is trying to be the woman who is feeling inferior to another woman, I don't think that she relates to that ever.
yeah,
Like, she is not the one that is inferior to anyone else in any
yeah.
situation. So like when she's singing about like Jolene, like I just don't believe it. And it's just like, I
She's
don't.
the queen.
Yeah.
She's literally labeled the queen.
So like, when I think this was the wrong cover to do, if you're going to put in a quote unquote like stereotypical or a standard country tune, it should have been a different one. Because I just don't believe anything that she sings about in Jolene. Like, I just don't feel any sort of connection there.
Yeah, yeah, and I 100% agree with you. Like you explained it very well.
Yeah. That,
Um,
that's
yeah, and then it goes to like daughter, spaghetti, alligator tears. Just like I'm like, like I'm like, this isn't country. Like we're not in country anymore. Like as soon as we start going down here, the only other song that I actually liked was "Ya Ya," which was almost like a bit of a ripoff of the Beach Boys as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then it's like you're going into surfer rock.
Yeah.
Now,
Brian Wilson is a songwriter credit on the song on that song.
oh, that's pretty cool,
That is
actually.
actually pretty accurate. That is a Beach Boys ripoff.
I mean, like, oh Louisiana, I didn't feel like it was necessary to have that on there. Um, then even like Riverdance was an awful song. Like I thought that song was awful.
Okay. Okay. I know. I can respect that. Riverdance. The thing that irked me about Riverdance is the ostinato of dance in the background. The whole song, he's just going
Mhm,
dance, 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 dance. Dude, like the whole
mhm.
song. That's the most annoying part of it. But I like the rest of like the actual song. Um,
Interesting.
but I that dance in the background was the most annoying thing I've ever heard.
It was definitely. I think that's why I hated it because
Yeah.
I was
If
just
you if
like,
yeah, if
this
you
is.
can't get past that part, it's
Yeah.
like the whole
You know
song
who
is
that
ruined.
dance guy was? That dance guy is the guy playing guitar on the first song. That's what that is. Oh. So I mean, and then it goes into like because I don't know if I have the right digital version here, but then it went into Two Hands to Heaven,
Yep, yeah, yeah.
Tyrant,
Yep,
Sweet Home Bucking, and Amen, which was just like okay.
yep.
But I'm not giving any discredit to Beyonce herself because she definitely like I went into research, and I was telling you this before this episode. Like I had to look up why did she create this album, and I completely get its reasoning and its creation for the album. That they want to shine more of a light in order for like a black female artists into the country genre, which is completely fair, and I completely understand it. And I respect the fact that she says it's not a country album; it's a Beyonce album,
Yeah.
which it totally is. It totally is a Beyonce album,
Yep.
right? And I'm not discrediting that. For those of the people that say it's a country album, I think that you need to take a look at what country music is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because I think this is a Beyonce album. Like if I was to explain this album to somebody, it's a Beyonce album with her twist of country. Not it's not a country album with Beyonce's twist. It's not that.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. I could see that. Okay, a lot of things to unpack, but let's get to that last point you just made. For me, I do agree it's not a country album. Like there's a few songs that are like on the borderline of country, but it's like it's so uncountry for this whole album that you can't even consider it a country album. But I would make the argument that it is Americana music. So Americana
Yes,
music,
absolutely. Absolutely.
for our audience is basically an amalgamation of American music. So you take country, folk, blues, soul, gospel, bluegrass, rock, all those things that are sort of like American music, quote unquote, because it sort of was the birthplace or it got famous there. I think it's amalgamation of all that. And then if you want to take like a new era spin on American music, Americana music, I think you should also include hip hop at this point because hip hop is a very American music. Obviously, when Americana was coined, hip hop wasn't a thing. But I think if we were to redefine that actual genre today, I think hip hop should be in that genre, Americana. So I think if I were to really describe the genre that is this album, I would say it's more of an Americana album. Now, obviously, like there are, I think the Willie Nelson spoken word parts. There's always some like undertone of questioning what genre is and why it's sort of like stupid to box people into genres. Like I get that part. But genre is useful because it does help you sort of define like, what kind of music this is. Should I listen to it? Because this is sort of like what I like and what my tastes are, or you go into it knowing like what you're getting yourself into, and it sort of puts you in a mindset of like what to expect. So it's sort of useful in that respect. But if we were to keep in the realm of genre is useful, I would put it in Americana music. I think you made a point where you felt like essentially the first half or the first beginning of this album was stronger and it just nosedived towards the middle and the end. I actually disagree with that. I think this album got better as it went along. I absolutely hated the beginning, with the exception of maybe Protector. I thought Protector was an okay song. But
yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I didn't like love the beginning. Like I said it was like I think it's okay, but the middle is where I liked, and then it just dropped for me.
Okay.
That's where like so it kind of went low up and then back down to low for me.
Like after the Jolene cover is sort of when I started sort of paying attention, because everything before that I was like, this is just, I can't listen to this stuff. Daughter was the Italian opera one, right? That it started off with like, I think it's Spanish guitar, to be honest, so I don't know why I went to Italian opera, but it was like a Spanish acoustic guitar beginning, a flamenco sort of style, and then it's sort of like it's another Scorned Lover type of song, which I think was a better Jolene. But anyways, that's when I started paying attention. I was like, oh, there's an Italian opera in here. That's sort of interesting. And then I like Spaghetti because you got Shabuzi on there, who's sort of like this hip hop country artist. So getting him on this album was pretty cool. I sort of like that. And then if you fast forward a bit, Two Most Wanted, when Miley Cyrus comes in, I thought that was great. I really like Miley
That was
Cyrus on this album.
that was a good album, and their voices really do complement each other
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really like that song. And then the song after that, Levi's Jeans with Post Malone, I thought that was just like a great, it wasn't country, but it was a great tune. I really like that. And then Yaya, I think that should have been the opener, to be honest.
Yeah,
If I were
that
to
would have been a good opener.
if I rearrange this whole thing, I would still put American Requiem at the beginning, just because it sort of catches your ear, because it's not really, it's got a lot of gospel and it's got a lot of harmonies, like really strong harmonies in it. So it's like an interesting intro to the album. But Yaya's that hype up song, sort of like an American bandstand type of song. So I thought that should have been really at the beginning. But I really like that one. And then my favorite song is Tyrant with Dolly Parton. That is my favorite song on this album.
Yeah, that is definitely a good song. Yeah. I still think Bodyguard is my favorite on this album. I just kind of dug it. Going back to American Requiem, like I liked the harmony parts and the gospel parts, but then as soon as that guitar came in, I'm like, this song is awful. But if it did not have that guitar part, I think it would have been a perfect song to open the album, in my opinion. Because you have this like it's like telling the story of the American Requiem.
Yep.
Right. And I think that this is what she was kind of portray with this album, which makes sense, because like if you listen to the lyrics, like they're actually pretty well put together. Like regardless of, even if I didn't like the songs, the lyrics are very well put together. But she had this cool thing about American Requiem, is when she's singing that gospel part, it's almost like when Ray Charles took blues music and mixed it with gospel music, and then everybody was losing their mind, because they're like, how can you do this?
Right.
Mix church music with blues music, which was considered like the devil's music, right, at the time.
Right.
And she even took that a little further and made it even darker. Like, so she has this darker sounding gospel sound, which I kind of dug. I was like, that's really cool. And then that guitar came in, and then it all just came flooding out, and I'm like, all right, well, there goes that. But she has a really good way of harmonizing her vocal. Like, she's a vocal powerhouse. Like, yes. you can't deny that. But I was kind of like, I wonder if there's going to be a little bit more of that gospel sound to this. But you know, and that's where it was kind of just, it's kind of all over the place with that for me.
This whole album's all over the place. And I guess my last sort of summary, or like my last point that I really want to make about this album, is I absolutely, listening, especially the first time listening to this, I was like furious. I was so angry listening to this album for the very first time. Because when I listen to it, like, there's so many ideas and there's so many things that are just going on, that it feels like an album that is written by 20 people. They all got into a room together, started writing songs together, and everyone had to have a say in terms of, like, in order to get their writing credit on the song, everyone had to have their idea in the song. And so many of these songs just have like a bunch of things just mixed together that don't make sense, or just clash with each other. And like, I just hated the whole experience, because yes, it's not a country album, but I think this should just be like, for every album, like any sort of music you put out, it should really be the voice of the artist themselves. Like, you have to believe whatever they're singing about or whatever they're playing. And like, when I listen to these songs, it's like, it doesn't tell me a story. It doesn't give me any sort of emotional context. It just feels like a bunch of people got together, wrote a bunch of songs, and like, there's just ideas flying everywhere. And I just hate when like music is put together like that. And after listening to this a couple times, I sort of had that same feeling. So I had to like do the research, go into like who the writing credits are, and like, when I look at it, it's just insane. Like, American Requiem has 12 writers on it.
That's insane.
It's
For
like,
one song.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Now, like, there's other songs later in the album where it's like 3 people, but like if you're putting an album together, like I feel like in general it should just be like the core band essentially, 5 people, 4 people for every single song, because it's like the group's idea, whatever
Hmm.
whatever they want to say, and not just like have probably, I don't know, at this point probably like 50 unique songwriters throughout this whole album, right?
Hmm.
It's just like there's no through line outside of it being like a Beyonce record, or a Beyonce sort of pulling the strings on everything and putting everything together. Like it's just like so many voices like coming in and doing one song or 2 songs, and like it's just a mess when I listen
Hmm.
to this from front to back.
Yeah, it's very scatterbrained.
Yeah.
Like just like you said, all over the place, which is hard to follow. Like I don't know if you took all these songs and I don't know if there's a way you can arrange this to make it sound better.
Right. And that might be the, that might be the reason why the CD version and the vinyl version and the digital version all have different track listings, or it's like songs missing or songs added. Like
Hmm.
I don't know. It just, if to me the whole album just feels like sort of like a corporate sort of packaging rather than
Yeah.
an artistic output.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And for those of people who think that this should win like some sort of like
Oh.
country album of the year, I think that you should go listen to what an actual country album sounds like. But I think that this could win some awards somewhere.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure in terms of award season, I feel like this goes into conversation simply because it's Beyonce who is, you know, quote unquote breaking boundaries because she's trying something
Hmm.
different. But from a pure musical level, I don't think it's there. Like I just
Hmm.
don't think it's like a great album. Cowboy Carter was met with universal critical acclaim upon release, with some describing it as a masterpiece. Metacritic has 92 out of 100. Daily Telegraph 5 out of 5. The Guardian 5 out of 5. The Independent 5 out of 5. NME has 5 out of 5. Pitchfork gave it an 8.4 out of 10. Holy shit, that's high for Pitchfork. Rolling Stone 5 out of 5.
The other problem I have with these people that do country music or try to make country album like Beyonce or like whatever person, music artist that you want to insert in this X category, all right? They always have to add either Dolly Parton or Willie
Will
Nelson,
Nelson.
and it's like, can you just pick somebody else?
Yes,
Like
for
pick
sure.
some like everybody. It's like, oh, okay, and I'm almost getting tired of people picking Dolly Parton to, oh, I'm collaborating with Dolly Parton. This is gonna be a country song, and it's like, okay, getting Dolly Parton doesn't mean that it's gonna just make things better for you,
Yeah.
and that's where I am almost tired of hearing these people. Like, I think, don't get me wrong, these people are very influential in their craft and they should be recognized, but like, let's stop bringing them in. Maybe collaborate with somebody in your own, you know,
Yeah.
era.
Yeah. That's true.
But
Okay. Anyways, I think we've raved, or not raved, but rambled on about this quite a bit. Final thoughts and ratings, Eric, on Cowboy Carter by Beyonce.
I mean, I can't really compare it to any other album Beyonce's done. I have listened to other Beyonce songs. Um, and I do think that this is a Beyonce album. And I do think that Beyonce was happy with what she came out with. And then that at the end of the day, that's all that matters, if the artist is happy with her craft. But I didn't enjoy this album. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
4 out of 10. After everyone gave it a 5 out of 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's out of 10, not out of 5.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Obviously as a country album, this is like a 0 because
Mhm.
it really isn't a country album. We've made this argument already, but I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 because I think there are a few good songs on this, but as an album, it is not a good album.
No.
Now I'm questioning my 5. No, it's a 4. I'm changing it. I'm gonna match you. It's a 4.
Boy.
It's a 4.
That a boy.
Because I was like, it's not a good album though. There's good songs, but it's not a good album. So it's got to be.
Not that 5 is really making it any better.
Yeah. No, the 5 is like it's an average, right? But I think it's a below average album.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but recording wise, this album sounds phenomenal. I do need to make that point. Like the instruments like sound so crisp, and like Beyonce's vocals so good. Like some of those songs so good.
Just her harmonies too. Like usually when people harmonize with their own voice, it kind of sounds like, oh, there's like 10 of you.
Yeah.
But like Beyonce does it in a way where it's just very flavorful.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what she's doing or whether that's in post production.
Yeah.
But it's like fantastic to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. From that perspective, it's great. But as an album, it is just not enjoyable to listen to. It's all over the place. And there's no like through line that like makes me feel anything about this album or makes me relate to anything about this album. So yeah, 4. I'm gonna say 4 out of 10.
One more thing I'm gonna say is after listening to this, I had this idea that I think it would be very cool whether Beyonce listens to this review or not and completely condemns us to hell.
Yeah, she's gonna like kill us. She's gonna send like the Secret Service against us and just we're dead tomorrow.
Regardless, I think it would be really cool having her do like a Ray Charles tribute album.
Ooh, yes.
That would be sick. Because I think that if anybody could pull that off, it would be her.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be great. Anyways, you know, I'm sure the rest of the music critical community is going to flame us because everyone apparently loved this album, but unfortunately here at the Crossroads Music Podcast, we did not enjoy this one.
Exactly. This is where your ratings are.
Anyways, all right. Let's wrap this all up. For those of you following along with us every single week, the album that we are going to be listening to and discussing will be the brand new and very last Sum 41 album, Heaven X Hell.
I hope this is good.
I hope so too, because it's their last album, but we will see. But yeah, that's the one we're going to be discussing next week. So that is the end of the Crossroads Music Podcast for another week. We're here at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast, live here at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT every Monday, and catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all those places. I think that's about it for this week. Unfortunately, we are not fans of Beyonce's brand new album, but we will argue with anyone that it is not a country album. 100%.
Absolutely.
You can disagree with us about how we felt about the album, but it is not a country album for a fact.
Yeah, for a fact.
For a fact. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time.